Hello everyone, this is hopefully going to be a relatively short video, basically about different kinds of things that I've been doing with books. So there's a couple of things that I've bought, a couple of things that I'm reading, and a couple of things that I have read. And the main thing that's been happening is that this year's I've gone off course. I've kind of sort of sailed off on the good ship Historathon for 2026, but I have put into safe harbor at some point, and I've kind of pretty well stayed there. I felt that I needed to kind of cover some stuff that I still haven't covered, and it's a kind of a need now. And basically, that starts with Ancient Rome. So that is a book that I bought, and yeah, I write on the inside cover how much I paid, but also when I buy things. So I bought this back in October 2024, and yeah, I still haven't read it. I'm over halfway through, but yeah, and well. When you buy something, it's also nice to see when you bought it, because there is the disappointment, of course, that all those ones that you haven't actually read yet. But having said that, there's something about it that I bought that in 2022, that in 23, that in 21, that in 24, maybe, or whatever it is. I think there's something there anyway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I paid £5.50 for this, oddly enough, not a quarter, or a nickel, or even a dime. No, a dime or even a nickel. Yeah, which would be nice. But no, if you want things like this, at least in the UK, then you got to fork out some money, seemingly, unless there are, fortune favouring the adventurer, I suppose. But anyway, okay, yeah, Scullard. So I got this from an Oxford University ancient history course reading list. Or rather, I didn't get this one, I got this one. And this is my slightly fancy edition. By contrast, there are some rather standard looking front covers for this particular volume, and this is a nicer thing, and it was in nice condition as well. So heck, why not? But yeah, H.H. Scullard, that's the one. And there is a newer version out with a black background and a helmet, a Roman helmet, I think. And obviously that's plenty of money because it's brand new. But yeah. This is still on reading lists. Okay, I say still because, if you don't know, this was originally published in 1959 and did subsequently go through editions. And this is the 5th edition from 1982. And this is the edition I think you need to get if you're interested. And, well, if one of his books is a terrific book, then surely this has to be a terrific book as well that covers the earlier time. I didn't say that. This is a history from Rome from 133 BC through to 68 AD. So this one, obviously, if you can see that, is 753 BC to 146 BC. So kind of like a volume 1. But when was this first published? 1935. 1935. Is it going to be any good? I mean, can they write in 1935? But of course they can. Yeah, of course they can, and they write very well. And English historians use slang in the 30s in their history books occasionally. And the like. And of course, this has gone through subsequent editions as well. So it's kind of nice. At the beginning, he provides, the publishers provide a preface to the first edition, and then to the second, then to the third, and then to the fourth. And the fourth edition of this, which is what this is, was published in 1980. So, of course, being ancient history, there must have been some archaeology since 1935 through to 1980, and you might be thinking exactly what I was thinking as well. There might be some archaeology from 1980 to 2020 or 2025. Well, okay, so yeah, the subsequent editions do deal with that. And in fact, the chapters 1 and 2 are completely rewritten for the fourth edition. But typically for, I think, a lot of these kinds of history books with subsequent editions, I mean, they kind of go about it in a good way. I mean, they say, or rather, Mr. Scullard says, Professor Scullard says that, what is it? For various reasons, including pagination, things have been kind of, they've tried to leave things as the same as the previous edition, if at all possible. Only the endnotes are the things that have been changed and added to, with all the, the subsequent secondary sources, but also the archaeology and the like. So, therefore, for 1980, I'm hoping this is, well, I know it is. It's a fantastic book. I think it's a fantastic book anyway. And I don't know. Did I do wrong? Not finding out a more recent book that covers all the most recent archaeology. Maybe, but I wanted to read this because it was written by Scullard, and because it was originally written in the 30s. So that's just from sort of perspective. So we've got an English historian writing way back in the 30s about Roman history and subsequent Roman books that I'm likely to have a look at in the future. I can therefore compare. So I thought that would be a good thing, and also just to see how he does it, how he puts it all together and how he writes it, and yeah, it's very good. It just reads perfectly well. Couple of points maybe that I came across that maybe that wouldn't be written like that nowadays. Just a couple of little points. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. It's just noticeable that that's, surprise, surprise. This was written. Some of this stuff is written in the 30s. But apart from that, it's perhaps surprisingly readable, surprisingly excellent. No, not surprisingly excellent. It's just sort of perhaps for some surprisingly readable, and it's just really good. It just reads excellently well, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And of course, being a youngish fella who's just celebrated his 54th birthday this year in May, for me this is literally first time round. So a little new guy at the School of Ancient History, which is just fine. And I'm just trying to savor it and appreciate it to as much as possible. So there's those two. But what I've been reading effectively for Q2 of Historathon 2026 this year, instead of moving into the medieval period 500 to 1500, I've been looking at the philosophy of history, basically. So that's centered around two main books: the Collingwood, The Idea of History, and Hegel himself, The Philosophy of History. Not one that I've seen many people show or talk about, oddly enough. Perhaps because it's written by Hegel, and it's well, not the most straightforward thing in the universe. That is the truth. Hmm. But the Collingwood is very good. It's another English professor, and this book wasn't really ever published as a book in his lifetime. He was a professor at Oxford University, and the book is drawn from a series of lectures that he gave, principally in the 30s, again, up to about 1941. And he kind of, I haven't been able to work out quite why, but he died early, somehow or other, unfortunately, in 41, before he'd completed it, as it were. I mean, he was working on it, and therefore we got sort of younger academics looking through his notes and trying to piece it together, and from lecture notes, talking to students from lecture notes and stuff. So yeah, that links up with various things, and it's a heck of a book, really. I mean, the usual thing with this sort of thing: what is history, why history, how to go about history, methodology in history. Well, I think this one's a little bit different. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's a bit more like philosophy, basically. I mean, for instance, at some point, typically for philosophy, he says that history is knowledge. Yeah. Okay, sure it is. I mean, it ought to be, unless we kind of fail to learn from history, because, well, you know, we're going to do it differently, aren't we? And all that kind of stuff. We're a bit fantastic, and we've got our ego and the like, our contemporary context. Who needs history? But to say that history is knowledge is sort of kind of a bit obvious, isn't it? Isn't it? Doesn't he mean some vast chapter with all sorts of labyrinthine depth and breadth that's that we're easily lost in? But he does say, he quotes from Hume, amazingly enough, or rather not amazingly, he quotes from Hume, and amazingly enough, Hume says that history is knowledge because it is based on a system of reasonable belief. Reasonable belief. Which, again, almost sounds like a kind of an everyday little line, but it presumably is really rather profound. One way or another. Yeah. So, and he covers all sorts of things. And he kind of covers, he covers sort of the history of history as written by philosophers of history. So literally, there's sections or groups of pages in Fichte, Schelling, Schiller, Kant, Herder, Romanticism, human nature, the Enlightenment, etc., etc. So we get around to yeah, I took all sorts of notes at the beginning, and then I'm not going to be able to find it. Nations, a hot topic, presumably, for most people at the moment. Nations. Yeah. Nations do not learn from other nations. How about it? Is that the case? Nations invariably learn lessons which their historical development has prepared them for. And on page 49, yeah, what does he say? He says, is the creator, and thus he leaves the historical process to mankind. That he does, and that there is a Christian universalism in this world called Christianity that says that all men are created equal before God, and that has implications for history, the historical process, and other ideas to do with history. Yeah. And then he talks about Rome and Livy. And unfortunately, I still haven't got around to reading any of this original source stuff. I picked up a number of copies of either from the Oxford World Classics series or Penguin Classics. Some of the things, some of it over there and some are up there. In fact, yeah, right there. But Livy, he talks about how Rome is the eternal city, and as far as I know, we have the idea today that Rome as an eternal city, and that apparently doesn't really necessarily really mean very much. I suppose it requires us to sort of think about it. I mean, why is Rome being referred to as the eternal city? Because Rome, from the 21st century or the late 20th century, was around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years and is still there today. Perhaps, or it's the eternal city because the Romans, let's say when Livy was writing, Rome had been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years as well. But having said that, obviously that's a shorter period of time, and people must have realized that, well, if we go back 1,000 years, where was Rome? There wasn't really one at all. So why is Rome so called, asks Professor Collingwood. People still think of Rome as Livy thought of her, non-historically, but substantialistically, as the eternal city. And, you know, there suddenly we're into something that's really? How am I supposed to know that? And that is just fantastic. It comes from Livy, and people just repeat this stuff, and it becomes common knowledge. Rome is referred to as the eternal city, but it's from Livy, apparently. But he also says that Rome is, if you will, a substance, and therefore it is changeless and eternal. From the beginning of the narrative, Rome is ready-made and complete. To the end of the narrative, she has undergone no spiritual change. The traditions on which Livy relied projected such institutions as augury, the legion, the senate, and so forth into the very first years of the city, with the assumption that they remained thereafter unchanged. Hence, the origin of Rome, as he describes it, was a kind of miraculous leap into existence of the complete city as it existed at a later date. Miraculous. Yeah. Dare I say it? Can I draw parallels with that to the July the 4th speech given by the President of the United States, Donald Trump? I don't know. He does say that America is really rather miraculous, I think, which is interesting, and all sorts of other things. I'd be interested in if anyone dares proffer their opinion. And I just want to finish with the Collingwood, because he says that history might just be what he says as an empirical, no, is what I say. It might just be an empirical collective What Collingwood says is that history is a collection of empiricism. So I want to reword that to a collection of empirical work. That history might just be a collection of empirical work. Yeah. Given half a chance, perhaps it is. Perhaps it depends, as ever. I mean, there's human nature, but the part of human nature is culture, upbringing, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. I mean, what was it? We should learn to. We should teach our children to go without from time to time, so that they perhaps learn in a good way to value the things that they already have. Yeah. So that's what I got to. And that seems pretty good to me. So there's that, and there's that. Yeah. Maybe I'll talk. I've got two other books in front of me. One is German history, and the other one is a play. But I'm going to talk about them in another video. So that's enough for me, I think. And well, until the next time. Bye for now.